Hey guys, these notes are really, really good. I think it really ties everything together. I think you're going to need me to guide you through quite a bit of it, but I think you're going to see how all this turns into each other. You're going to need your calculator to, I don't, TI, I guess is what I need. Okay, so let's start here. They're going to give you some facts, and then we're going to have to fill in what we can know based on what they tell me. Okay, so there's a couple things here. When they tell you the roots, they are also telling you the factors, okay? So this will be y equals, if -2 is a root, that means x plus 2 is a factor. I did leave myself some space because I did read ahead and I saw that the value of the leading coefficient is -2. So there's a -2 in front. Looks like a sloppy A, but that's fine. And then we have 1 and 1 as a double root, which means x minus 1 quantity squared is the factored form. That is enough for you to graph it if you wanted to. The degree here is 3. 1 of the x times x squared is 3. It's a negative coefficient. I'm going to go to M behavior. If it's a negative coefficient, degree 3, we have a frowny snake baby. And that means as x goes to negative infinity, as x goes to the left, what direction is it? It's up high at positive infinity. And as x goes to positive infinity, this is going down to negative infinity. You will need to show some work to go from factored form to standard form. Your calculator could tell you if you do it correctly by typing 1 into the y1 and 1 into the y2. I usually do this part first because I could do that in my head because I've done so many of them. Some of you might need to go ahead and double distribute them out. I'll hold on to this x plus 2, but I'm going to go ahead and do this. X squared will be minus x minus x. It's minus 2x plus 1. Okay, and then I would do this part next. I don't be triple distributing here. You can do the boxes if you'd like. I'm going to save the -2 still for a minute. That'll give me x cubed. I'll write it up here. X cubed minus 2x squared plus x plus 2x squared minus 4x plus 2. And that would give me x cubed. The 2x squareds will cancel. I have a -4x and a positive x, which is a -3x plus 2. Just double checking my work. I don't want to make a mistake and you guys not be able to tell me. Distribute that through to get standard form completely. So I get y equals -2x cubed plus 6x minus 4. Don't forget, standard form is good for telling us that y-intercept. So that y-intercept is going to be at -4, which might help me graph it. Now you will go to your, you are going to go to your calculator here eventually, but let's type the stuff we know first. I always like to graph what I know first. Oh, that was bad. Even worse. Kind of sounded like Grover there. Okay. All right. So one of the roots is at -2, and that's going to be a single root, so it's going to pass right through. And one's going to be a double root, which is going to be a bounce. And then the y-intercept is -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I could fit this in without going to my technology. I already drew the rough sketch here, guys. It's going to go through here, and then it's going to come back up here, but it has to go down eventually, so it'll bounce and then come back. But let's get some actual points. So we're going to type this into our calculator. I wonder how this is going to work. Okay. Y equals clear. -2 x to the third plus 6x minus 4. Okay, you can go to your table for some nice, oh, my zoomer's messed up. Let's go to a zoom 6, standard zoom. Okay, so here's what we got. There's that bounce I told you about. It would be nice to know what this point is. How low does this actually go before it turns up? So you're going to do this button a lot with polynomials. It's a second calculate, second trace, and we want to know the minimum value there. So you'll hit the left until you're on the left of it because it wants to know, where do you want it to start looking? I want it to start looking at this cursor, and then it can stop as soon as it's on the right side of that low spot. So it's only going to look in between those two lines. It asks you for a guess. That is optional. And there it is, -1, -8. So -1, -8 is what we call a local minimum, a local minimum. And why do we call it a local minimum? Because this function actually has no minimum because it goes down forever. And because it goes down forever, there's no max and there's no min, but there's what we call a local minimum, which is a turning point where it goes from decreasing to increasing. There's actually a local maximum too, but we knew where that point was because that double root happened here at 0. Okay, so that's all you need to do on these. You'll use your calculator a lot. There's no problem if you go to your calculator before I did. I have more experience, obviously, with these, and you guys are doing pretty darn well just for doing any of this without Mrs. Bruno with you. Okay, so when I look at this one, it tells me that the degree is 4 and the coefficient is positive. So it's going to be some sort of smiling graph, U-shaped graph. And then this is very important. When you see the 2 plus I, you immediately need to write 2 minus I as well, because I's always come in conjugate pairs. They never come alone. I could go ahead and do the end behavior based on my sketch here if I wanted. As x goes to negative infinity to the left, f of x at y is going up to positive infinity, and it's also going up to the right. So they're both going to positive infinity. I'm not going to write the factored form yet, although some of you might have written this, and this is not wrong. I'm going to take my roots, and I'm going to write it out. First, I have an x because of the 0, and then I have an x minus 4, and then I have an x minus parenthesis 2 plus I, and then an x minus parenthesis 2 minus I. Some of you might have written that down for factored form. That's perfect. That's actually what the book wrote down. That's not what I wrote down because I usually like to factor over the integers and not have these i's and weird stuff in there. So I'm going to go ahead and double distribute this first before I write it in factored form, but that's up to you. I'll just go ahead and do this for safekeeping. X squared minus 4x. Some of you might like to do the rectangle here. I am going to distribute this negative first. So it's x minus 2 minus I and x minus 2 plus I. And like I said, you could do the rectangles, or I'm going to triple distribute here and see what I get. Here's an x squared minus 2x plus ix. Now I'll do this negative 2. Negative 2x again, plus 4, minus 2i. Now here's that minus ix. I'm going to run out of space, aren't I? Then what? A plus 2i. Ooh, sorry. Plus 2i. And then a minus I squared, which a minus a negative 1 becomes a plus 1. Okay, so I have the x squared minus 4x. And this cleans up pretty nicely to x squared minus 2x minus 2x minus 4x. This guy is gone. This guy, those two are gone. So then I have a 4 plus 1, which is plus 5. Oh, I shouldn't have done that yet. I forgot about the factored form. So here's what I would have wrote for factored form. I would have wrote the x and the x minus 4. Was on my way to standard form here, guys. And then I would write this guy, x squared minus 4x plus 5, which we would usually say does not factor. So we would leave it there. But if you wrote this top guy, that's perfectly fine. Now we would have to multiply these two and triple distribute again to get it in standard form. So I'll do that next. You could do the rectangle if you want. X to the 4th minus 4x to the 3rd plus 5x squared to 3 Okay, minus 4x to the third, I'm going to put that here, plus 16x squared minus 20x. Okay, so my standard form is that degree 4, like I thought it would be, and that's x to the fourth. This will be a minus 8x to the third plus 21x squared minus 20x. And that one was tough. Actually, some of the problems later are significantly easier than that, so I'm surprised I kind of started that with you so early. But we can go to our graphing calculator now, and it's really tough because you can't go to your graphing calculator much earlier than that. So let's see what we have here. I'll type in the standard form one because it's just a little easier for me to type in. X to the fourth. Make sure you right arrow out of there. Oopsers. Okay. Minus 8x to the third. Plus 21x squared. Minus 20x. Okay, take a look at the graph. Okay, so it is up and up. There's little bumps here, and the wiggles away from the axis usually mean there's imaginary numbers. So there's the two real guys at 0 and 4, and these are the wiggles. It would be nice to know both of these points. So I'm going to do second calculate. Let's do the minimum first, and let's find this low point here. I'll start looking here, and I'll hit the right arrow to tell it to stop looking right there. And it'll tell me it's almost a little bit 3/4 and down 6 1/4. So you can see in my answers, I put a dot at the point. Okay. And now I'm going to find this maximum point. Second, calculate maximum. And that is another relative max because there's no max here. This is actually probably an absolute minimum. There's probably two minimums here. I wanted to start looking here for that max. And then enter, enter. This one's pretty nice. We're going to guess that's 2, -4. It's the relative max. So put a dot there on your graph. And then one more minimum. Second calculate. I don't know if I hit it or not. Second calculate. There we go. Minimum. I can start looking wherever. Enter. Oh, hit it too many times that it's okay. And then I go back over to my guess. And it looks like 3.2, -6.25. Yeah, so those are the relative, max, those are the absolute, minimums, because this graph actually does have a minimum. I don't think they asked me for the range or anything. No, I did everything I was supposed to do. You would go ahead and graph it. See if I can remember what it said. 0, 4, I think it was like 2 at -4 maybe. And I don't remember how low these guys went. Maybe it was like 6 1/4. I don't know. Something like that. Okay, I didn't graph it because of the, but I bet it's pretty close. Ooh, that looks like a V. That would be nicer if it was rounder. Okay, there you go. Let's just do the first two because I think this video is probably long. I'll do 2, 2. I'll do 2 on the next one too.